Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Anastasio with AARP New Jersey, and I want to welcome you to our first Facebook Fraud Friday of 2021. Today, we are talking about a topic that's on everybody's mind, the COVID-19 vaccine. We know that scammers are always looking for ways to strike, and the vaccine is no exception. What a better time also to talk about this than Identity Theft Awareness Week. We're joined by two special guests today, Sean Neefsey from the DCA and Charles Clarkson from Senior Medicare Patrol. They will both share information on frauds and scams related to the vaccine, and they will share red flags to look out for and ways to protect you and your loved ones. If you have a question today about frauds and scams related to the COVID-19 vaccine, just type it in the comment section, and we're going to do our best to get to it today. Our first guest today is Sean Neefsey, who is the Deputy Director of the Division of Consumer Affairs, also known as the DCA. The mission of the Division of Consumer Affairs is to protect the public from fraud, deceit, and misrepresentation through education, advocacy, regulation, and enforcement. Sean oversees enforcement matters investigated and prosecuted by the division. We're looking forward to a great conversation today. So, Sean, thank you so much for being here with us today. We know that vaccine scams are popping up across the country and are a growing problem. Can you describe for our viewers a few types of vaccine scams that you've been hearing about?
Sure. Thanks so much, Christina, for having me on. I'm really happy to participate. You're absolutely right. Scammers are always looking for ways to get personal information or financial information out of the public. And the pandemic really has been no exception to that rule. It's just sort of the latest storyline that the scammers have been using sort of to defraud all types of consumers. So when I speak to our federal and state partners, we're definitely hearing about repeated stories sort of common schemes and scams related not only to the pandemic, but more recently to COVID vaccination efforts. So one of the ones that we're hearing a lot about are calls about unsolicited emails, phone messages, text messages, saying effectively that you need to provide certain financial information or personal information in order to obtain a vaccine or to register for a vaccine. That's not true. You do not need to be providing bank account information to register for a vaccine. I think the important thing here, a good rule of thumb, is to rely on trusted sources. Those sources are the state and local health department websites, which are a resource-rich source for sort of all the latest on COVID vaccine efforts. Another common scam that we've been hearing about are these sort of like priority access scams. So in those situations, someone's asking for an upfront payment to get your name on a special list or to give you early access, a special reservation. That's not how it works. There's no secret list. You should not be paying upfront monies to register for a vaccine. And again, just to hit the last point again, the best way to sort of avoid this problem is to rely on trusted resources like the state and local health department websites. The last one we've been hearing about is sort of internet sales advertisements or telephone solicitations offering to drop ship vaccines to your house. These things are scams. The vaccines are not being sold via banner ads on the internet or through telephone calls to your house promising that they're going to overnight a vaccine to you tomorrow. So you need to be on the lookout for that. The vaccines are being administered, by federal and state approved sites. So those are sort of three of the common scams. There's obviously iterations of those, but those are three of the sort of most frequent ones we're hearing about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sean, for that information. I want to remind our viewers, if you have a question for our guests from the Division of Consumer Affairs or Senior Medicare Patrol, please write your question in the comment section and we'll do our best to take your question live. So I know the scams you mentioned are just some of the ones out there, and I'm sure more and more will be popping up, like you said, different iterations as they continue to roll out. If you had to sum up top three tips for our viewers to avoid COVID-19 vaccine scams, what would those be?
Sure. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think relying on trusted resources here is really an important tip. So again, state and local websites, health department websites, talking to a trusted personal physician or a pharmacist, somebody who you trust. Those are the folks that are going to have the most up-to-date and recent information, and they're going to be able to set you in the right path. Another tip I would say is don't pay an upfront fee for registration for a vaccine. You don't need to do it if someone's asking you for a large sum up front. That is a scam. And then the last one is if you're receiving unsolicited messages, whether that be text messages or phone messages or email messages, especially ones that are requesting you to provide financial information, whether that be your bank account or a credit card or something specific like that, and you don't know where those messages are coming from, don't provide the information. I think a good rule of thumb is, evaluate where the message came from. If you don't know where the message is, don't provide the information. Scammers like to create confusion or a sense of pressure or urgency to try to catch you off guard, and maybe you provide some information. So it's always important to take a step back, evaluate whether you know the source of the information, the source of the message, or expecting the message. And if you're not, then don't provide the information.
Absolutely. And while those are great tips for the vaccine scam, they're also great tips across the board.
For sure.
We know that a lot of these scams are iterations of common scams that we see all the time. So I think those are great tips. Thank you so much, Sean. We're going to turn now to our next guest today, Charles Clarkson, Project Director of Senior Medicare Patrol of New Jersey. The Senior Medicare Patrol provides older adults information to prevent them from becoming victims of fraud, waste, and abuse in the Medicare program. The program also acts as an advocate to fight suspected Medicare fraud. So, Charles, we've heard some tips from Sean on avoiding COVID-19 vaccine scams. Do you have any tips on how to avoid these types of scams specifically for Medicare beneficiaries?
Yeah, what I wanted to say was that the mania surrounding the vaccine, I don't know if you talk to your friends, your neighbors, everybody's saying, how do I get it? How do I register? That's creating an atmosphere where people are dying to do whatever they can to get the vaccine. So it's ripe for fraudsters. So my advice would be is number one, no one from Medicare or HHS, which is Health and Human Services, or your state health department is going to call you to offer you a vaccine or to register for a vaccine. If you want to register, go to the official site, and the official site is covidvaccine.nj.gov. So that's really the place you should go. Now, I know there are some mega sites out there, and there might be some other places, but just confirm that it's legitimate before you sign up. Also, in what I've seen lately, which I can't believe, people are posting their vaccine cards. When you get your first shot, you get a little card, has your date of birth on it, and your name, and some other information. They're posting this on social media just to show that they got it, and it's got all this personal information. Don't do that. That just having a date of birth for a fraudster is a big, advantage for them. So don't do that. And I want to talk about tracing scams. A number of states are still tracing people who might have come into contact with people with COVID. But a tracer is not going to ask for any of your personal information. As Sean said, don't give out Social Security numbers, Medicare numbers, date of births, your bank information, none of that stuff really. And, and what we're also seeing is websites that are offering fake cures and vaccine. And that's really, when you think about it, very disastrous if someone falls for that. And of course, people are not going door to door. The CDC is not going door to door to offer you test kits, to offer you vaccines. So all the, scams can take any number of forms. But the rule of thumb that I always say, if you get a call, a text, an email, a door-to-door knock, if you don't recognize the call or the person, don't give out any information. And if it's on a call, we have a saying, slam the scam. Just hang up the phone if you pick up. My advice to you is if you have a telephone without a keypad, get one. If you see a number you don't recognize, you do not pick up the call, because the more you pick up the call, the more calls you're going to keep getting, because you're on a list. And these people, if they say, oh, we got someone who's going to pick up the phone, if we do it often enough, they'll get tired. They'll give us some information, and not only goes your Medicare information, but identity theft can easily follow.
And Charles, we know that no one from a vaccine distribution site or healthcare payer will ask for your Medicare number, your social security number, or your credit card bank information. That's correct, right?
Right. But there is something, when you go, let's say later on, you're going to go to a doctor and get your vaccine if they have it in the future. They actually can use your Medicare number because they are allowed to charge a fee for administering the vaccine. So there can be some need in certain cases for your Medicare number. So just be aware of that. But to everybody else, the vaccine is free. No deductibles, no co-pays, zero. So you should not have to pay for a vaccine. And we want to tell people, if you find anybody out there that's doing that, please call the Senior Medicare Patrol and let us know so we can follow up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Charles, for that valuable information. I want to remind our viewers again, if you have a question for our guests about the COVID-19 vaccine scams, please write your question in the comment section and we will do our best to take your question live. So we'll bring Sean back. And Sean and Charles, where can people go to get more resources on COVID-19 scams or to report a scam? Sean, would you mind telling us first, and then we'll go to Charles?
Sure. So I think there's two important places to look. One was previously mentioned by Charles, and it's the state website. It's covid19.nj.gov/vaccine, or you can call the number that's at the bottom of the screen. That will be a good resource for sort of the vaccine administration guidelines and registration efforts. And then the second resource is the division's website. So you can reach us at njconsumeraffairs.gov, all one word, .gov. And there we have an online portal where you can submit complaints about scams or frauds. You can also, we've posted some materials about COVID-related scams that aren't just limited to vaccinations. So as Charles mentioned, contact tracing scams, charity-related scams, those sorts of things. So that's a good resource for you as well. And if you do not have access to the internet, you can reach the division at 973-504-6240. And those are the places where I would go for information.
Thank you so much, Sean. Charles, could you give us some information on where our viewers can go for more information?
Of course. You can go to the Federal Trade Commission, which is ftc.gov. You can go to CMS, which is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And all of these sites now have so much information. You can be here till next month reading it all. So there's so much information out there. And of course, Medicare.gov will also have information on its website. So there's no lack of information out there. All you have to do is look it up. And like Sean said, if you don't have the internet service, certainly call the Division of Consumer Affairs, or you can call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 732-777-1940. We also have a website. It's www.seniormedicarepatrolnj.org. Then we have plenty of information about COVID scams right on the website.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you, Sean. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Sean, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Charles mentioned one before that I think is really important, and is one we're hearing about very recently, which is folks are posting maybe information not only about their vaccination cards, but their vaccination appointments and other medical information on social media. I think it's always a good idea to refrain from putting personally sensitive information on social media. Scammers are always looking at social media to grab that information and use it to engage in identity theft. So it's really important to be careful about what you post.
That's a great tip. Thank you so much, Sean. Charles, any last thoughts?
Yeah, well, I always tell people, in this crisis, there is a kind of fear of getting sick and not getting the vaccine. So I'm telling people, keep calm, go to the official site to register. If there are mega sites and you find out there might be walk-ins and stuff like that, or drive-throughs, go there, but go to the official sites. be an advocate for yourself. And because you don't want to be a victim of fraud, because it really takes a lot of time and effort to undo the fraud.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Sean and Charles again for this informative discussion. We're honored to have had you here today with us to share tips, best practices, and resources on COVID-19 vaccine scams. For our viewers, if you're concerned that you've been scammed, you can reach a trained volunteer at the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. If you'd like more information and resources on frauds and scams from AARP New Jersey, you can visit aarp.org/NJ-FIGHTS-FRAUD. Again, that's aarp.org/NJ-FIGHTS-FRAUD. If you'd like to sign up for emails from AARP, you can go to aarp.org/yes, the number 2, email NJ. That's aarp.org/yes, the number 2, email NJ. We hope you learned something new today about how you can stay safe from frauds and scams. Thank you all so much, and thank you again to our guests, and have a great day.
Thank you for having me.